Good evening. This is great. We've got a full house. This is a happy occasion. Most people search high and wide for the key to success. If they only knew, the key to their dreams lies within. Where there is no vision, there is no hope. No individual has the right to come into the world and to go out of it without leaving behind distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it. And therefore, do what you can with what you have and do it now. Thank you for allowing me to mash up 4 wonderful quotes from the person of the hour, and every hour at Iowa State since 1891, none other than George Washington Carver. Let's have a round of applause. It is intimidating to stand here next to George. We celebrate Carver not just because of what he overcame and what he accomplished, but because his legacy is one of inspiration and encouragement. By having this annual Carver Day in Iowa and gathering here to contemplate and to celebrate, we are helping to fulfill his admonition to do something now to make the world a better place. Thank you for being part of that. I am Dan Robeson, and I have the distinct privilege of being the Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences here at this great Iowa State University, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you this evening to this year's celebration of George Washington Carver. This is the 3rd year we are doing this under the authority of the George Washington Carver Day Proclamation, supported by the Iowa Legislature and signed by Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds. The idea behind this day and annual celebration originated with 2 of the speakers who you will hear from later in the program. Former Ambassador and World Food Prize Foundation President Emeritus Ken Quinn, and internationally renowned opera artist and ISU Distinguished Artist in Residence Simon Estes. Beginning in the summer of 2020, they worked tirelessly to bring this idea to Iowa and asked that ISU be the host and the home of this annual celebration. This is our 3rd time. Today, we also recognize and honor another person of great distinction and legacy, also with a foundational connection to Iowa State University, who worked together with Carver for many years at what is now Tuskegee University, none other than Frederick Douglass Patterson. 2 other speakers later in the program will focus on Patterson and his enduring encouragements. A brief history lesson to get us started. George Washington Carver was born into slavery in 1864, and then as a force of nature, he found his way to Simpson College and then Iowa State in 1891, earning his bachelor's and master's degree, and then serving as a faculty member until in 1896, joining Tuskegee. That is where he spent the remainder of his extraordinary career, solving problems in agriculture and in crops utilization, and as a teacher to his students and local farmers, and to the nation and frankly the world, on what it meant to lean in and to make the world a better place. His famous work on sweet potatoes and peanuts is just a taste of the many things he did and the broad swath of society that he inspired and continues to do so. Carver passed in 1943. Dr. Frederick Douglass Patterson earned here at Iowa State a doctorate in veterinary medicine and a master's degree in veterinary pathology in the 1920s. He then served from 1935 to 1953 as the president of Tuskegee, where he worked side by side with Carver for 8 years. Patterson passed in 1988. Today, we celebrate them both and their connection. Before we begin, I want to make special mention of a person missing from our room tonight, missing from our community this evening, and that is Mr. Bill Northey. Many of you knew Bill. Bill was a friend to us all, a person cut from the same cloth as George Washington Carver in so very, very many ways. Bill was a farmer, a community engager, an ISU alum, a former secretary of the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, an undersecretary at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and CEO of the Agribusiness Association of Iowa. More than anything, Bill was one of ours and an inspiration to us all. Bill passed away far too soon, almost exactly 1 year ago, and his last major public engagement was here at the George Washington Carver Day in February 1st of January 2024. As always, Bill stayed to the very, very end as the chairs were being cleaned away, so he had a chance to learn from everyone, and I'm sure everyone he spoke to was inspired from him. We remember Bill and always keep his inspiration close at hand. And I want to give some special shout-outs in alphabetical order, if you'll allow me, to people who have joined us this evening and honor us simply by being here. I ask that, if they would like, they should stand and stay standing, and then all together we'll recognize them after I have called each of them out. And of course, with apologies to anyone I may leave off this list. We have with us tonight Dean and Director at Tuskegee University of Agriculture, Olga Bolden-Tiller. Right. Wait, let's wait, because we're gonna have a lot of people, but Olga, if you want to stand up, that'd be great. How about that? The Iowa Board of Regents Chief Academic Officer, Rachel Boone. President and CEO of the 1890 Universities Foundation, and later to be introduced as our keynote speaker, Dr. Jewel Bronaugh. ISU Miller Distinguished Artist in Residence and Opera Artist Extraordinaire, Simon Estes. Iowa State University College of Ed, you should all be standing as I say your name, and staying standing. Come on, stand up. There you go, there you go, there you go. Okay, here we go. I have to look up from my notes. ISU Provost and Senior Vice President Jason Keith. ISU College of Veterinary Medicine Dean Dan Grooms. Former Ambassador and President Emeritus of the World Food Prize Foundation, Kenneth Quinn. Dr. Ruby Perry, the Dean of Veterinary Medicine at Tuskegee. Hello? President Emeritus of the 1890s University Foundation, Dr. Mortimer Newville. CALS, College of Ag and Life Sciences, George Washington Carver Professor, Walter Sousa. Last year's George Washington Carver Day event speaker and performer, Paxton Williams. And of course, it is a distinct pleasure to introduce President Wendy Winterstein. Let's recognize them all. Okay, thank you very much. It's now my great pleasure to introduce and have come forward Mr. Yusuf Malcolm Mbake. Malcolm, please. Mr. Malcolm Mbake is an ISU alumnus and current graduate student. He was awarded the 2023 Outstanding Senior Award when he completed his bachelor's degree in agronomy and global resource systems. He went on to choose Iowa State University for his second degree, his master's degree in soil science, focusing on nitrous oxide emissions. He is the current vice president of the Iowa State University Manners Chapter and the programming chair for the Black Graduate Student Association. Please help me welcome Mr. Mbake to the podium to introduce our keynote speaker.
Okay. Thank you, Dean. Dr. Joel Bronaugh is the president and CEO of the 1890 University Foundation, the second person to hold this position. In 2021, she made history as the first Black woman to serve as the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, a role she had assumed after unanimous Senate confirmation. Dr. Bronaugh has also served as the Commissioner of the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Virginia State Executive Director for the USDA Farm Services Agency, the Dean of College of Agriculture at Virginia State University. She has championed initiatives such as the Virginia Farmer Stress Task Force and the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund to support farmers and improve food systems in marginalized communities. A native of Pittsburgh, Virginia, Dr. Bronaugh holds a PhD in career and technical education from Virginia's Tech, and is committed to service and youth leadership in agriculture. Please help me welcome Dr. Bernard to the stage. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Let me try that again. We're supposed to be excited about this evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am honored to be here this evening. Yusuf, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And it's just quite an honor and an experience to celebrate the incredible legacy of one of our nation's greatest minds, Dr. George W. Carver. I so thank President Winterstein, Dean Robeson, and everyone who invited me to come here for this auspicious occasion. I have to give a shout out to Dr. Theresa Cooper, who has shown me nothing but the utmost hospitality. Dr. Cooper, I'm gonna speak up for you to get a raise later on. Thank you so much. It is just absolutely a delight to visit this remarkable campus. It's my first time here. This remarkable land-grant university established in 1858 around innovation and inclusivity. And as the second president and CEO of the 1890 University's foundation, following the great Dr. Morton Newville, who's here this evening, we represent the 19 historically Black land-grant universities with the distinct mission of providing a public education for Blacks in the United States. And it is through that mission, that work with the 1890 universities where I've served part of my career, I feel that profound connection to Dr. Carver's legacy. That love for teaching and that love for changing lives. There's so many words that we could use to describe who the great George W. Carver is. Agronomist, artist, educator, conservationist, humanitarian, and so much more, but we know that he was a man of hope. His life teaches us not just about scientific innovation, he teaches us and he taught us how to live life with a purpose, to treat others with kindness, and to inspire change. We all know his revolutionary work. When we were young children, we learned about the 300 uses of the peanut and the 120 uses for sweet potatoes. I was talking to my two 23 and 24-year-old kids. They asked me, where are you going this weekend? I said, I'm going to Iowa State University. I'm going to be the keynote on the George Washington Carver program. They were like, Carver, that's the peanut guy, right? And then my other daughter said, didn't he do some other things? I said, y'all need to go back and take some Black history lessons or something, because he has been about so much more, and we know that. You know, I think about everything that he's done, his advocacy, his work in sustainable agriculture. I praise this man every time I cover my gray and thank him for creating hair dye along the way. But his true genius has been in his resilience and his determination. I can't think of a better time than now to recognize and celebrate someone who embodies all of the things that make an incredible human being. And I thank you, Iowa State, for having such a forward-leaning mission that education should be open to everyone. And we have to give Iowa State the credit and dare say that had not the great Dr. Carver passed through here, he may have taken a different journey. And that notion that Iowa State has of education open to everyone could not be more relevant than it is today. And I want to speak to the young people who are here today. I'm thinking about our students. If you are a student here or a young person enrolled in school anywhere, would you please stand? I want to see the young people who have joined today. Yes, please let's give them a round of applause. Thank you all so much. Now, I'm talking to you too. If you're young at heart, you can be involved in this too. But to the young people who are here, I just want you to know that you are my inspiration. I feel privileged, like so many others who are here, to join Dr. Carver in his passion for teaching and preparing the next generation. You are who we are all looking to come forward behind us and carry our nation and our world forward. And just for a couple of minutes, I'll hit on a few points that we know about Dr. Carver, but I just want to hone in on how he was and how he treated people and how he inspired a legacy that will last forever. Dean Robeson mentioned how he was born into the harsh realities of slavery during the last months of the Civil War on an isolated farm in Missouri owned by a man named Moses Carver. And I know you all know this history, but let's just think about it again for a minute. Both of George's parents were slaves. His father was crushed under the wheels of a lumber cart right when he was born. Before he was a year old, he and his mother were abducted by lawless leaders and taken to Arkansas so they could be resold. But Moses Carver went out in pursuit of young George and his mother, finding only George and his mother never being seen again. No parents. Interestingly, Moses Carver took George and his brother into he and his wife's home and raised them as their own. Let's stop a minute. Orphaned. Raised by two white parents, owners, in a segregated state. Carver often referred to himself as an orphan child of a despised race, leading to insecurities he had to deal with for the rest of his life. Of course he had insecurities. Of course he had insecurities. Look at how this man came into the world and what he had to endure so early. To the young people, here's what I want to say. We didn't all arrive here on this earth with a doting mother and father, inside a safe home with a protection system, a security alarm, with a luxury dog. I don't know why dogs wear clothes these days, but and plenty to eat and family vacations to go on. Some of us were raised by one parent, perhaps a half a parent, or no parent at all. Perhaps some of us had to raise our parents. Some of us came to college with a one-way ticket, a suitcase, and a prayer from your grandmother who wasn't sure you were going to quite make it. But George W. Carver's life reminds us that it doesn't matter how you arrived here. It doesn't matter your background and where you come from never defines you. It doesn't say where you're going. You never have to be ashamed of where you have come from because it has made you who you are. Some of us also know that young George was sickly and frail. He had a difficult time in this world. His brother worked on the farm when he couldn't. But Carver loved nature. He loved nature. And for every struggle in our lives, we've been given a flower. I call it a superpower that's embedded within us, giving us the power to succeed. And through Carver's love of nature, he wanted to figure out how to break down plants and figure out how to solve problems to help people. And he defied the odds with an insatiable curiosity for education and a determination to learn. He would say education is the key to unlock the golden doors of freedom. His thirst for knowledge led him to walk 8 miles to attend school, sleeping closer to the school so he could be there. What in the world motivates a 12-year-old to leave home and walk 8 miles to school? He teaches us we have to be unapologetic about our pursuit for education. Educate yourself. Get all the knowledge that you can while you are here. Ask questions, demand the answers, and speak up about things that don't make sense. There's a lot in our world now that's not making sense. And we need you to ask the questions and demand for things to make sense. And also learning is going to mean it's going to make you really good at something. Become good at something. Become the best in the world, because that's what's going to create the legacy that you're going to leave behind. You all know that Carver was initially accepted to Highland University in Kansas, but denied entry upon his arrival because the administration discovered that he was black. It did not deter him, one foot in front of the other. When you hear a no, that's your message to try again. Things that you want to do that have that game-changing potential will often be marked with challenges. My mom always says if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Do the hard things. Hearing that Iowa might have a college that would accept him, he applied to Simpson College to study art. What could this man not do? Art. He reminds us that science and art and agriculture can coexist in such a beautiful way. And his art teacher at Simpson College learned that he had a passion for agriculture and agronomy and encouraged him to enroll at Iowa State. We all know the story of him transferring to Iowa State, becoming the first black student, and later the first black faculty member, his degrees in agriculture, a bachelor's and a master's degree. He was a first. There are going to be many firsts in this room. Young people, you are going to be a first in many things. His journey as the first black student here at Iowa State University makes me reflect on my own. In 2021, I found myself nominated as the first black deputy secretary to serve in the Department of Agriculture. I would be the first in more than 160 years of USDA's existence. We were so clueless when the offer came. I called my husband. I said, babe, I got a consideration to be nominated for deputy secretary at USDA. He goes, oh, that's cool. Where's that on the org chart? I said, well, let me show you. That's how clueless we were about what was really going to happen to us. And I will tell you this, when I was tapped to become deputy secretary, I was on no one's radar. I would often speak with people who would learn of my nomination, and they would go, well, we've never heard of you. And I would say sometimes, I haven't heard of you either. It just made me feel better to say that. But I suddenly felt all the weight of my insecurities. Just, was I good enough? Was I going to be able to do this huge job? How would I prove myself? The responsibility of being the first black woman in this job meant I would be expected to show up and speak up for people who had not been allowed to have a voice of their own, and that weight was very heavy to me. But the great Carver teaches us to walk with your head held high through those unknown valleys, through the criticism, through the doubt. Walk with your head high. And he also taught us that we don't have to speak loudly to make a big impact. We have to walk the best way we know. And listen, sometimes people will not think it should be you for the job. They won't think it's you. You for the job, you for the promotion, you to be chosen to lead, but it might just be you. So you need to live your life like it's gonna be you. Because when your opportunity comes, you need to be prepared, and it will come quickly, and there will not be time to get ready. Now is the time to get ready. And while Carver could have continued at Iowa State, he received a letter in 1896 that would forever change his life and unlock his full purpose. This letter read, and it was an offer letter, I cannot offer you money, position, nor fame. The first two you have. The last from the place you now occupy, you will no doubt achieve. These things I ask you to give up. I offer you in their place work, hard, hard work. The task of bringing a people from degradation, poverty, and waste to full manhood. The letter was signed by the great Booker T. Washington, the then principal of the Industrial and Teacher Training Institute for Black Students in Alabama, that we now know as the great Tuskegee University. Dr. Carver was offered $1,000 a year plus living quarters and much, much hard work. He felt it was his mission to accept and unlock the golden door of freedom for his people. Now, see, that's when they would have lost me, because I would have said, can y'all at least make this $2,000 a year? I need a little bit more to come and give up my life, but he accepted. And to the faculty and the administrators who are here this evening, here's where some of the expectations on his EWP. He was asked to be the administrator of the ag department and oversee 2 experimental farms. He was also asked to teach a full load of classes, 15 hours, maybe 18, to serve on the Institute's executive committee. There puts you in the middle of university politics, to oversee the beautification of the campus grounds. Now, isn't that somebody else's full-time job? To serve temporarily as the campus veterinarian. Dean Grooms is like, what? And establish an outreach program for poor Black farmers in the surrounding areas. That's a whole full-on extension program right there for $1,000 a year. Nevertheless, he accepted, and for 47 years at Tuskegee University, he inspired countless students to pursue their education in agriculture as a pathway to uplift their families and their communities. And he loved his students. He loved teaching. And a lot of his legacy kind of sticks within the last bullet on that EWP, to establish an outreach program for poor Black farmers in the South. He despised a system of sharecropping on cotton farms in the South and used the cotton industry for change. He said, whenever the soil is rich, the people flourish. Whenever the soil is wasted, the people are wasted. Poor soil produces only a poor people. He encouraged, as we all know, the sustainable agriculture practices of things like crop rotation and the use of organic fertilizer, cover crops like peanuts and sweet potatoes. He was a steward of the land. Now, we're going to stop saying that Dr. Carver invented peanut butter. He did not invent peanut butter. His work with peanuts was intended to provide alternate uses for surplus crops for struggling Southern farmers, to diversify their income, and to provide cover crop for soil conservation. We know him as a creator and an inventor, developing hundreds of products. He chose not to patent most of his inventions. I think he may have had 3 patents, but he believed they were gifts from God. And he famously turned down lucrative job offers, including one from Thomas Edison, who I think may have offered him $100,000 to work in his lab in New Jersey. That's tough. But he turned it down to continue his work at Tuskegee. But the things he did, what he stood for, were why he was so influential. Having personal relationships with 3 U.S. Secretaries of Agriculture and being an advisor to world leaders like Theodore Roosevelt, Mahatma Gandhi, Henry Ford, who thought the world of Carver. See, that's what great character does. It takes you to places you never thought you would go, with people you never thought you would meet. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in a world of such divisiveness. And I ask you, if nothing else, to figure out how to use Dr. Carver as a blueprint for how to treat people. He reminds us, fear of something is the root of hate for others, and hate within will eventually destroy the hater. He had a gift to connect with people from all backgrounds, races, colors, creeds. He sought to bridge racial divides through education and innovation. He believed science and agriculture could be the tools for economic independence and racial equality. He says, I love humanity and all of humanity who is struggling to be someone and somebody. I'm not interested in complexion, texture of hair, nationality. I like all of God's work. So may we continue to pray and love each other more and more if possible as time moves on. I wish Dr. Carver, I wish he was here today. In his gentle and kind way, he would remind us that we all got to eat, breathe the same air, we're all human. He'd urge us to use science and agriculture as tools for economic independence and prosperity. Honestly, our true legacy is what we do for other people. Everything else fades when we're gone. So we need a new Carver today. Young people, we need a new Carver today. There's a new Carver among us. And I am going to pray for you to be able to stand up and leave that legacy behind. So let's recommit to his principles to champion education, inspire innovation, and work so that every person, no matter your background, can reach your full potential. As he says, it's simply service that measures success. So thank you, Dr. George W. Carver, for your words, your life, and your legacy. And thank you for allowing me to speak to you all this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Dell, and I'm honored to serve as the Department Chair of Music and Theater here at Iowa State University. Cantamus is a select soprano-alto or treble voice ensemble at Iowa State University, one of the 4 major choral groups in the Department of Music and Theater. Cantamus has a mission to expand the reach and the impact of treble voice ensembles, both at ISU and in the wider world of vocal music. Over 95% of these singers are non-music majors and represent a broad range of academic areas and backgrounds. In this ensemble, singers are invited to move and be moved musically, physically, and emotionally in ways that they sometimes don't feel free to express in other settings. In turn, music moves through these singers, out to their audiences, but also through their creative expression and back out into their individual circles. Tonight, we have 2 very special performances that come together to uniquely celebrate George Washington Carver and his connection to the university. The first is the world premiere of a new ISU loyalty song. We all know the Bells of Iowa State, the ballad darling of ISU historic tunes. It was written in 1931 in response to a contest by the Iowa State Alumni Association. Many other loyalty songs from the early 1900s exist for Iowa State College and for many of the fraternities and sororities of the time. One of those songs from an old collection is called Hail Iowa State, written in 1937. It was a favorable mention in the Visha contest of around that time. 2024 ISU alum Madison Mayfield has created an arrangement of the 2 songs that sets the Bells of Iowa State in their natural environment, as heard from a distance anywhere on campus. Cantamus is calling it the ISU Carillon Call. And after its premiere today, it will be recorded for broader use across our Iowa State constituency. Cantamus' second song is an arrangement of Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come. Writing in 1964, Sam was inspired by the impact of Bob Dylan's Blowin' in the Wind and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. It quickly became an anthem in the civil rights movement. Two artists with us tonight make this performance extra special. Brandon Leake is a science-bound program manager here at ISU by day, but he is also a gospel pianist and is with us tonight improvising on an accompaniment in that style. And Adosa Madison is a member of the Cantamus Ensemble and also a founding member of ISU's Jubilee Gospel Choir. Jubilee started in the fall of 2022, grew quickly, and has a strong presence today, both on campus and in the community. Adosa's vocals are the perfect fit to Sam Cooke's lyrics, and her interpretation inspires all of her peers singing with her. Cantamus and their director, Dr. Jennifer Rogers, are honored to be a part of this celebration recognizing George Washington Carver Day at Iowa State. Please enjoy the premiere of the ISU Carillon Call, followed by Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come. Enjoy.
Hello. Hi. George Washington Carver and Frederick Douglass Patterson, two towering figures in American history, contributing profoundly to education, innovation, and the advancement of their community.
Their work intersected in purpose and legacy, emphasizing the empowerment of African Americans through education and practical skills.
Good evening. My name is Nina Linton, a second-year student in Iowa State University College of Veterinary Medicine.
And my name is Haley Johnson, a second-year student at the Tuskegee University College of Veterinary Medicine.
It is our pleasure to introduce you to our future colleagues, Dr. Ruby Perry, the Dean of the Tuskegee University College of Veterinary Medicine,
And Dr. Dan Grooms, the Stephen G. Jules Guard, Dean of the Iowa State University College of Veterinary Medicine.
Thank you, Haley and Nina. George Washington Carver's connection to Iowa State University is integral to understanding his contributions to agriculture science. Carver, born into slavery, became one of the first African Americans to earn a degree in agriculture sciences, earning his bachelor's degree from Iowa State's Agriculture College in 1894. He continued at this institution to complete his master's degree in 1896. And then making a profound impact on the university's agriculture programs during his tenure here. Under the guidance of his mentor, the renowned botanist Lewis Pamel, Carver conducted extensive research that laid the foundation for his later innovations. Carver's work at Iowa State included pioneering studies on plant biology, which would inform his later research at Tuskegee Institute. His time in Ames was not just about academic learnings, but also about the development of his philosophy towards practical education. Carver strongly believed that science could improve the lives of farmers and that agriculture research should be applied in ways that benefit communities, particularly Black farmers in the South. His experiences at Iowa State helped him refine those ideas and provide him with the tools to launch a remarkable career in agriculture science.
Frederick Douglass Patterson was born in Washington, D.C. He was raised in Texas by his sister after both of his parents died from tuberculosis when he was 2 years of age. He was inspired to study veterinary medicine by Dr. Edward Evans, who was a faculty member at Prairie View A&M and a 1918 graduate from the Iowa State College of Veterinary Science program. Dr. Patterson enrolled at Iowa State College of Veterinary Science and graduated in 1923. He was the fourth Black graduate from this program. He then returned to Iowa State and received his master's degree in 1927. In his autobiography, Dr. Patterson talks about how Iowa State University profoundly shaped his views and how its land-grant values inspired him as his career evolved.
Dr. Carver rose to prominence as a scientist, inventor, and educator. His work at Tuskegee Institute, where he headed the agriculture department, revolutionized Southern farming practices. Carver's advocacy for crop rotations and sustainable agriculture helped impoverished farmers restore soil depleted by cotton monoculture. His innovations with peanuts and sweet potatoes and other crops provided new economic opportunities for farmers. Carver's emphasis on practical science was transformative, offering real-world solutions to agriculture challenges and enabling self-sufficiency among African American farmers. Beyond his scientific contributions, Carver became a symbol of perseverance and intellectual achievement, inspiring countless individuals to pursue education and innovation.
Dr. Patterson was an educator. He was a visionary whose work redefined African American higher education. As the third president of Tuskegee Institute, he expanded the institution's programs, emphasizing technical and vocational training alongside liberal arts. As president of Tuskegee Institute, Dr. Patterson continued to make a mark on higher education by starting the College of Engineering, the dietetics program, and the aeronautical sciences program, which would become the foundation of the World War II fighter pilot group, famously known as the Tuskegee Airmen. Audaciously and inspired by the opportunity offered to him by the beloved Iowa State, Dr. Patterson started the first and to date only College of Veterinary Medicine at a historically Black college. As a Black person in Alabama, he was prohibited from getting a veterinary license. However, his courage and commitment kept him grounded and continued the great accomplishments he is known for today. His most lasting legacy, however, was the establishment of the United Negro College Fund, as we know, fondly known as UNCF, in 1944. Patterson's vision for the UNCF was groundbreaking. He recognized the need for sustained financial support to ensure the survival and growth of historically Black colleges and universities. By securing funding from philanthropic organizations and individuals, he created pathways for thousands of African Americans to access higher education pathways, which continues today.
Comparing the impacts of Carver and Patterson reveals both distinct and overlapping areas of influence. Carver's work was rooted in scientific innovation and directly addressed the economic and environmental challenges faced by African American farmers. Patterson's contributions, by contrast, focus on institutional change and the empowerment of individuals through education. While Carver's advancement provided immediate and tangible benefits to rural communities, Patterson's initiatives created a long-term opportunity for social mobility and professional development.
Both of these trailblazers understood the power of education as a tool for liberation and progress. Carver's teachings at Tuskegee emphasized practical knowledge that farmers could apply in their daily lives, fostering independence and resilience. Patterson's leadership, particularly through the UNCF, ensured that future generations could access a broader range of educational opportunities, ultimately breaking cycles of poverty and discrimination. Together, their legacies underscore the multifaceted approach needed to address systemic inequality. For Carver, he tackled economic and environmental issues at the grassroots level, while Patterson addressed structural barriers in education and professional advancement.
George Washington Carver and Frederick Douglass Patterson made unparalleled contributions to the advancement of African Americans and society at large. Carver's agricultural innovations transformed the livelihood of countless farmers, while Patterson's advocacy for education opened doors to new possibilities for generations to come. Though their methods and focus areas differed, their shared commitment to empowerment through knowledge solidifies their places as two of the most impactful leaders in American history.
Both Carver and Patterson brought about immediate and transformative impacts with their respective leadership spheres. Carver's advancements provided practical, hands-on solutions to the pressing needs of rural farmers, directly improving their livelihoods and their right to exist. Similarly, Patterson's work through the UNCF addressed an urgent need for educational access, enabling generations of African Americans to break barriers in professions previously dominated by whites. These parallels highlight the complementary nature of their efforts. Again, Carver worked to uplift communities from the ground up, while Patterson created pathways for systemic and sustained upward mobility through educational advancement.
Although their expertise and impacts were different, I'd like to share a story from Dr. Patterson's autobiography, The Chronicles of Faith, that demonstrate how they actually work together. And I quote from the autobiography. Dr. Carver had been on the faculty at Iowa, and I knew a great deal about his work there. Carver's efforts reflected the philosophy of Iowa State, which was, as I have previously noted, a land-grant institution dedicated to making lives better in practical fields such as agriculture, home economics, and engineering. I knew of Carver's reputation and knew that I could learn from him. An incident that occurred early in my days at Tuskegee brought us even closer together. A number of the Institute's swineherd were dying, and as the newly appointed veterinarian, I was consulted about the problem. First, I wanted to see whether the affected animals were eating something from the dining room that might have caused them their trouble. I found that they were not, and were in fact living in a large pasture. After examining other possibilities, the thought occurred to me that maybe they were dying from eating poisonous plants. At that time, the soil of Alabama around Tuskegee was not very fertile. As a result, animals would eat almost anything that they could get their mouths on, and often develop symptoms of poisoning. I mentioned my concern to Dr. Carver, and he expressed a willingness to make a number of early morning field trips with me to see if we could recognize anything in the pasture which might be causing the damage to the swine. As we began, I was impressed with Dr. Carver's marvelous knowledge of plant life. All of the plants we saw he knew both by their scientific Latin names and by their common ones. We came to the plant Phytolacta decantra, known as poke salad. These leaves were boiled by people and ate just as if they were greens in a salad. Carver said, we ought to look at the roots and the stems of this plant because they are filled with oxalic acid. We took some of the plants to the laboratory where he cut thin slices. We put them under a microscope, and sure enough, they were packed with oxalic acid crystals. All right, I said, I'll take some of these pigs that are not affected and feed them poke salad, and I'll keep other unaffected pigs as controls. And I'm sure this was all done with IACUC approval. I was able to produce exactly the same lesions found in the dead animals that were eating the pasture. And by destroying all the poke salad plants, we were able to correct the condition and save the rest of the herd.
George Washington Carver and Frederick Douglass Patterson, two towering figures in American history, both powerfully linked to Iowa State University and Tuskegee University.
George Washington Carver and Frederick Douglass Patterson, forging new frontier for people like Nina and I, both impacting lives then, now, and into the future. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carmen Bain, and I serve as the Associate Dean for Academic Innovation in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences here at Iowa State. Iowa State University is so fortunate and proud to share in the legacies of both Dr. Carver and Dr. Patterson, and our faculty, staff, and students continue to draw upon their legacies for inspiration. While Carver is primarily remembered as a scientist and inventor, as you've heard tonight, he also studied piano and art, where he found much of his inspiration. Dr. Carver's favorite poem, Equipment, by Edgar A. Guest has an amazing phrase that says, "Courage must come from the soul within. You were born with all that the great have had. With your equipment, they all began. Get hold of yourself and say, I can." This fall, the Iowa State community held the George Washington Carver I Can poster challenge. Students from across the university were invited to create a poster or a piece of artwork that illustrated George Washington Carver or Frederick Douglass Patterson's legacy on the world we live in. These creations are on display here tonight, and we're pleased to announce the 4 winning creations, and I invite you to stay behind and visit the posters during the refreshments. The Carver Best in Show was awarded to a poster that best highlights the work and impact of George Washington Carver. And that award goes to Ushashi Bhattacharya, a junior in bioinformatics and computational biology, and their co-author, Tirtho Roy, a sophomore in computer science. The Patterson Best in Show was awarded to a poster that best highlights the work and impact of Frederick Douglass Patterson, and that goes to Sarisa Parameswaran, a graduate student in biomedical sciences. The Innovation Poster Inspiration was awarded to a poster that tells the story of either Carver or Patterson, and that award goes to Jordan McDowell, a senior in graphic design. And the Innovation Artwork Inspiration was awarded to an artwork that tells the story of either Carver or Patterson, and that award goes to Victoria Evans, a graduate student in creative writing and equipment. Please join me in congratulating the winners and all participants inspired by Carver and Patterson. I would now like to introduce the co-chairs of the Bipartisan Carver Recognition Day Committee, who was so essential in establishing today as the day of honor it has become, which Dean Robeson shared with you earlier. Ambassador Kenneth Quinn is the President Emeritus and Special Advisor to the World Food Prize Foundation. Simon Estes is a renowned opera standout and the F. Wendell Miller Distinguished Artist in Residence in the Iowa State University Department of Music and Theatre. And we're so grateful to this pair of Carver enthusiasts whose efforts were the catalyst for our celebration here today. Please help me welcome Ambassador Ken Quinn and Simon Estes to offer their reflections.
So, President Winterstein, I thank Dean Robeson for inviting me to be part of the program until I realized what an incredible, tough series of acts to follow. So here I am up here, but to share with you a little bit about my connection to George Washington Carver. And I have to say, the incredible musical performance. I'm so sorry you all couldn't see. Yeah, I was serious about being nominated for a Grammy. But sitting there, looking up at Professor Carver and all of you singing those inspired words, I swear to you, I could see his eyes brighten, a smile come on his face, and he was, by your beautiful voices, seemingly uplifted into the air as if being carried by that music and those sentiments on that journey that he began here on this campus in 1890. It was magnificent. I, unlike George Washington Carver, did not attend Iowa State University, but I had the incredible honor of receiving an honorary degree when I gave the commencement address in December of 2008. And I was just a year ago made, even more importantly, Dr. Jeff Jones, I don't know if he's here, told me, an honorary distinguished alumnus of that. So I've got, I now regularly get the notices and the solicitations to contribute on that. So I'm in the same with you. But when I received that honorary degree, President Barack Obama had just been elected, 2008 election, but had not been yet inaugurated as president. And as I spoke to the graduates at Hilton Coliseum, and I said, I want to tell you and speak to you about a man who came from a neighboring state of Iowa, who came to try to do something that nobody of his background had ever done before, that he clearly, just by his name, you could tell that he was of African descent. And then I said, but I'm not speaking to you of Barack Obama from the neighboring state of Illinois, who came to do the impossible and win the Iowa caucuses and then go on to be elected president. Not of 2008, but of 1888, and of George Washington Carver from Missouri, and who would, like Barack Obama, paved the road to come and try to do something unprecedented, something incredibly remarkable. What many may not know is that in the Iowa caucuses, which would be decisive in selecting who would be the nominee of the Democratic Party, President Obama went from town to town. His last event, the night before the caucus, was here at this union, his last rally. He had come here to Iowa State with the hope of being accepted, just as George Washington Carver had come here. I don't think the union had been built yet to a student to find acceptance on that. I learned of so much about George Washington Carver that I spoke of in my address, of his connection to Mahatma Gandhi by chance from Paxton Williams' wonderful graduate program. And I commissioned a painting, which, as Dean Olga Bolden-Tiller knows, I came in 2014 of December to give the keynote address at the Pause conference and present a copy of that painting of Gandhi and Carver writing to each other as Gandhi was struggling to throw off colonial rule and let over 1 billion people live in freedom and sovereignty and democracy today. And in my address at Tuskegee, at the Pause conference, I told a couple of other stories about small conversations that made a difference. One of them was about how in 1906, Seaman Knapp, previously the president of Iowa State University, working for USDA, going to Asia, bringing back rice crops, trying to get Iowa farmers to go to Louisiana, to the town of Iowa, and begin rice industry in the South. Seaman Knapp, having been here when George Washington Carver spoke with him, they started the regional whole extension program that quickly grew to 100 or more extension workers. The second story I shared had to do with the fact that George Washington Carver was also, and the students will appreciate this, the manager on the football team. And in 1891, the perhaps most momentous event of the last decade of the 19th century, Iowa State beat the University of Iowa in the football game with George Washington Carver. See, inspiration. As Barack Obama would say, now that's change we can believe in. But what I also shared and that I had found in my research was that the reason Jack Trice came from Ohio to Iowa State University, the African-American player for whom the football stadium is named, the only D1 sports facility named for an African-American, because Jack Trice wanted to follow in George Washington Carver's footsteps and to go to the South in animal husbandry, as I know Frederick Douglass Patterson would be so proud. I hope if you haven't been to the World Food Prize Hall of Laureates, you go and visit, see the artwork. President Mashal Hussein, she just became president on February 1st, same day as Carver Day, is hosting a wonderful program tomorrow. Dr. Neufville is the keynote speaker who'll be there doing this. And it's get there about 10, and you can leave after his, and you can skip my talk after that. Haven't seen me on that. But I'm so pleased we have Ellen Franzenberg, John Wogman, Randy Renzi, who are all here from the World Food Prize, be there and see this. As you'll see at the Hall of Laureates, I'm given to putting up plaques and historic markers. And if I could, as an upstart honorary grad and honorary alumnus, having just heard the world premiere song in here of the Carver first day of George Washington Carver's official day of recognition, one of only 3 in the 179-year history of the state of Iowa, of these incredible connection through Frederick Douglass Patterson, the Tuskegee Airmen, of Jack Trice. This should be a place on the National Register of Historic Places where all of these threads of history run through. And so that George Washington Carver will always be remembered. I'm the younger half of the Simon Estes, Ken Quinn duo. We have performed on television together on Iowa Press as 2 recipients of the Iowa Award. Simon Estes performed in all of the incredible opera houses in the world. He sung for presidents, for Nobel Peace Prize laureates, for popes. I, on the other hand, was in 5th grade sent to the back of the room by the nuns at St. Joseph's School in La Crosse, Wisconsin, so that my off-key voice would not disrupt the harmony of all the other students. And so you can see why we are the perfect pair here. So it's my incredible honor to welcome Simon Estes to come up to the stage on that.
President Winterstein, distinguished guests, it's an honor to be here tonight, standing next to this wonderful man, a man who's made great contributions to humanity. You all know about all of his science, but he also was a man of great character. And character is very important in life. Some of the qualities of character are honesty, integrity, kindness, telling the truth. He was a man who was very humble. And my uncle had a name of George Washington. My father was born in 1891, and this is really something very unusual. He never liked candy. He never ate candy. When he died at 71 years of age, he had all of his original teeth and no cavities. But you know what he loved? He actually loved peanuts. And he only ate peanuts. He never ate any candy. My grandfather was a slave, sold for $500. And he was a man who couldn't read or write. He was taken out of school in the third reader, as they called them in those days, in many schools of colored schools, as they were called. But he had a beautiful heart, and he had a beautiful faith, and he and my mother had a beautiful marriage. My daddy was born in 1891. My mother was born in 1910. And my father came here because of the coal mines in Iowa. And my mother was born in Centerville, Iowa. But when I was in high school in Centerville, the only thing I knew about this great man was about a peanut. And all of you here know that he was far greater than a peanut. But he was a man who never gave up. He was a humble man. And I feel honored that I was in Tuskegee a number of years ago, that great institution, and slept in the same bed and room that this man slept in on the campus. And when I was staying in that room, I was there 3 nights. It's as though I felt his incredible presence, because he was a man full of love and dedication and education and music and flowers. He was a kind man. One might think of him like our Abraham Lincoln, except he wasn't quite as tall as Abraham Lincoln, but they had great qualities. And he was a black man, but he had a beautiful heart, and our hearts are all the same color. and they all beat the same way. And he made a contribution to education and to health. I believe every child who is born should receive certain types of nourishment. Remember, no child ever asked to be born, but nonetheless they were born, and we have a responsibility as adults to make sure that those children get certain types of nourishment. They need food and clean water. They need education, so they come to educational institutions, from elementary school up through college and universities such as this great university. They need spiritual nourishment, which comes from God and His Son in the Bible. And the Bible tells us in Psalms and Proverbs to get education, to get knowledge, to get understanding, and above all, to get wisdom, and to have brotherly and sisterly love for each other. There's only one race on this planet Earth, and it's called the human race. And God made us different colors, texture of hair, even languages. He wanted us to love one another. One of my daughters gave me a plaque that said it said, love is the music from the soul. And the choir that sang today, you sang magnificently. All of you wonderful young ladies. And Jennifer, you conducted magnificently. And Brad, who's my boss, he's the chair of the music department. You introduced her quite beautifully too. But when all of you were standing here, the choir, predominantly you were Caucasian. And this man, they have him quite dark right there, but when I was in elementary school, I had a boy soprano voice. And when I went to high school, I was invited from the middle school, or junior high, as we call it in those days, in Centerville, Iowa. They asked me to come over and sing in the choir, and that had never been done. And so the principal allowed me to go to the high school from junior high and sing in the choir, and I sang in the first soprano section. And that's really true. And it was the first time I'd ever sung a solo in a school, and it was a beautiful spiritual song called Sweet Little Jesus Boy. There was a lady there who her son was in high school with me in the 9th grade. Her name was Mrs. Poffenberger. And after I finished singing Sweet Little Jesus Boy, they made you be born in a manger, she cried, and tears were streaming down her cheek. And I said, "Oh, Mrs. Poffenberger, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry." She said, "Little Simon, those were not sad tears, they were happy tears." And I realized that at that young age, that music truly is the international language of the world. And I've been blessed to have sung all around this planet Earth, whether it's through all of the opera houses and orchestras in Europe, Africa, South America, Australia, New Zealand, China, Japan, Yes, as he mentioned, for 2 popes, even though I'm not Catholic, I sang at the Vatican. Sang for Nelson Mandela, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and Barack Obama, 3 Nobel Prize winners, and they were men of color. I had the honor of having sung for them. But this man right here, we have something in common. We both have 2 buildings on campus. Now, I don't know any other 2 that have, but at any rate, 2 years ago, I was deeply honored, and I want to thank President Winterstein and the School of Music and my colleagues that they named the music building after the little colored kid from Centerville, Iowa, but it was right next to the George Washington Carver building. And I feel deeply honored to have a building next to his building. And I would like to say to all of you this evening, let us have more love. We need it desperately in this country. We need love. And we need good, human, honest leadership. And we need all of you out there to search in your hearts the important part of the human body, and that is the heart. And God gave us a heart, and He has said all of our thoughts and our actions come from the heart. But there are some people that have a heart that is only a mechanical pump, because this individual does not have love in his heart or empathy in his heart or kindness in his heart. And I hope that all of us will realize we must love one another. God gave us that commandment, and His Son came and said it's like all of the other 10 commandments. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. This man was full of love, knowledge, wisdom, kindness, empathy, dedication, and most of all, he had a beautiful heart. So God bless all of you. Let's all love one another and be kind to one another and be forgiving when necessary. God bless you all, and I love you.
Thank you, Ambassador Quinn, and thank you, Simon Estes. What wonderful remarks to help us conclude our evening. This has been a great celebration of George Washington Carver and Frederick Douglass Patterson. I want to thank you all for coming here to the 3rd annual event like this. Now, just a few details before we close out. Over here, we have a reception planned for you. There's wonderful ice cream made by our ISU Creamery under the leadership of Sarah Conover and her staff. There's also the posters that Carmen Bain talked about that you can enjoy on exhibit while you have your ice cream. And we have a very special display of some of the herbarium plates that George Washington Carver himself put together in the 1890s. It's got his signature on them in his own handwriting. And please go over and see Lynn Clark and Deb Lewis to explore those as well. Students who are here and receiving credit, you can have your card stamped on the outside. Thank you for staying to the very end. Appreciate it. And then a couple of thank yous here, people who put this all together. Very much Theresa Cooper, Andy Zier, Haley Cook, Angie Weeks, most especially, Carmen Bain, David Giske, Allison Parker and Madeline Ostendorf, Sydney Marshall from the museums, and I want to thank my great colleague, Dean Dan Grooms. Thank you all so much, and enjoy the reception.